people are trying to sell things, they'll say, oh, let me tell you why this is so much better than something else. That's not as exciting to somebody as something that's brand new and different. And we'll get a little more on the psychology on that later today and in future sessions. Specific, concrete, tangible, arresting, startling, shocking people out of complacency. It's another way of saying a pattern interrupt. Easy to grasp. It avoids the curse of knowledge, which you'll find in Made to Stick. Simplicity encourages belief. Big ideas should generate a huge supply of supporting fascinations. Like, what's a fascination? A fascination, sometimes you see them as bullets, but really it's just like a part of your copy, maybe a sentence or two that's really exciting. An idea, a sub-idea of the big idea that's really exciting. If your big idea doesn't generate lots of objections and lots of ways of meeting that objections, it probably means it's not a big idea and it's just boring to people. So it should naturally generate lots of fascinations. It should validate and fascinate. It should be infused with powerful, believable, and unique proof, usually social proof, authority, or a track record. It should reveal a new mechanism to achieving a promised result. We'll get into that a little bit in a minute. A big idea almost, this gets kind of woo-woo, but it's true. A big idea almost vibrates or glows when you see it, depending if you're a visual person. You instantly feel it in your gut. It should trigger a proverbial light bulb going off in your brain, and it should generate that same effect in other people.
This is why, like we said the other day, when you have a copy buddy and you pitch ideas, you're going to instantly see it if they like the idea, right? They don't have to tell you. They don't have to be mean about it. But if you tell them a big idea and they're instantly fascinated by it, you're going to see that. If you get that deer in the headlights, just look, then it's just not good. Just drop it and move on, right? Did you guys get that the other day?
Yeah. Big ideas don't necessarily have to be about something big in the world, and we'll go over this in a minute, but it must be about something big in the prospect's life. I mean, they actually have to care about it on a deep level. The best big ideas are often seemingly obvious or simplistic. If you look at it afterwards and be like, if it's someone else's, like, why didn't I think of that? Or even if your own, you're like, why didn't I think of it sooner? You should be able to pitch the basics of your big idea in 2 to 3 sentences. If it takes longer than that and you're having a hard time articulating what your big idea is, it probably means it's not in your head strong enough yet. The last point is really important. Big ideas exist in a context and a place in time and space. So a big idea that's working right now in the marketplace is working right now. So the kind of key thing on that is just don't blindly steal something from the past, because there's no guarantee that a big idea 5 years ago is going to work now. There's no guarantee that a big idea working right now is going to work in 2 to 3 weeks. A big idea has to exist at this very moment, in this marketplace, in the United States, like the day it goes out.
Perfect example of that is, what's the hottest idea in the financial space right now? Cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency packages would not have worked 4 or 5 years ago. They wouldn't have. So each idea that you have exists at a very, like Ryan said, a very specific time and place. And to get back to the word that you used, it's like the zeitgeist, right? What's the zeitgeist of America right now? What's the zeitgeist of the 60 million Grandpa Kurt's out there, whatever they might be? Trying to find and tap into that exists in some moment in space. So just think about that when you have your ideas too. Certain ideas won't work, and cryptos may not work 5 years from now. Who knows? Because they're not going to be as new and exciting. Maybe they wouldn't have worked 5 years ago. They're working right now.
I'm going to put this one on the list today in the handout. But I think big ideas too should be scary to certain people. I say certain people because what I mean by that might be people that are not as tuned into direct response copywriting in our market and what we're trying to do here. I think someone that has the golden gut, someone like me or one of our publishers or Joe or maybe another experienced copywriter, seeing a big idea that we get is going to be exciting for us. But you're going to find that when you pitch that same idea to someone who doesn't really understand our business as much, maybe it's a newer copywriter or a new person, maybe it's an editor or someone that's not as connected to the marketing side of our business, but they're going to find it a little scary. They're going to be like, whoa, this is like too big, or that doesn't seem real, or whatever. And that anxiety that they're feeling means you might be onto something. So it's kind of you're kind of looking for the opposite for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience. If their initial feeling is fear, it means you trigger some sort of emotion, big emotion. Now, someone like a little more experienced, if we have fear, meaning we don't like it or we don't think it's going to work, you might want to take that for what it's worth.
As we go through these things, I just want to say this to you guys as well, which is this is the most important topic, like I was saying, but it's also the hardest to understand topic. So if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I conceptually get all these things, it seems like a bunch of theory, but I'm not sure how to actually do it. Like, that's a perfectly natural feeling, because this is the hardest thing for us to understand. This is the thing, however, that separates any Agora division from any of our competition. This is the thing that the competition has never figured out how to do, is how to actually have a big idea. So if you look at why Agora, and let's specifically zone into Agora Financial, that obviously you guys are part of, why is Agora Financial having success in a way that a lot of our competitors aren't? It's because they have not figured out big ideas. They're still writing the same ideas that are boring ideas that are like, who else wants to make 22% a year in the stock market? Like, that shit ain't gonna work, man. Maybe it worked 35 years ago when the market's less mature, but they're still writing those ideas up today. What separates us, what separates you guys, which builds our big list that other people don't have, and which builds hopefully big bank accounts for our readers by getting into good products, and what hopefully builds big bank accounts for every one of us, is the ability to formulate a big idea. But again, don't be confused or angry or saddened if you're like trying to conceptually get this and you just don't get it yet, because this will take a while to get, and that's why it's going to be woven into every single session that we do. It's the most important thing, but everything in life, right, and every law of economics, what's oftentimes the most profitable is oftentimes the hardest to do as well. So this is the hardest thing to do as well.
Another way to look at it visually, for the visual people out there. Think of a circle and call it the world. And that's everything in the world: the news cycle, politics, economics, finance, technology. A lot of people think like the big idea is there, and there are big ideas out there. Like Bitcoin is a big idea in the world, but it's not necessarily a big idea for a promotion. Like 5 years ago, people were trying to write promotions about Bitcoin, and they weren't working because it also has to impact our prospect's fears and desires and what they really believe at that moment.
Which again, who's the prospect?
Grandpa Kurt.
Yeah, Grandpa Kurt.
And then it also has to intersect the product. So it has to be something we can actually fulfill. This would be the editor. This would be the theme of the editor's newsletter. This would be whatever investments the editor is recommending at the moment. So again, like, if none of our editors want to recommend Bitcoin and we can't really sell that idea in a product, then it's not really a big idea. So a big idea would be right in here, and you can make little dots in here, because it's all within this little space here, but some might be a little more geared to the world, some might be a little more geared as part of the product, some might be a little bit more geared to the prospect, but they're all in here. So for example, Bitcoin, big idea in the world, huge technological shift, blockchain, you want to use another example. People really believe, or Grandpa Kurt really believes, what's his fears and desires, his fear of not getting into something that's going to rip him off, his desire to make a lot of money, and then an actual product, a means of actually achieving those desires. So you might look at like the $50 Bitcoin blueprint. It's a big idea within here that kind of hits all those different sections.
Have you guys read, who's read the $50 Bitcoin blueprint? Anybody? We don't have it on the reading list, so like half of you guys. So that idea, just to let you know, is a pretty simple idea, right? It's easy to understand. It's about how to start with as little as $50 and how to make a fortune, even in Bitcoin, even if you don't know about Bitcoin, right? So you look at that, and that's directly in the middle of that. What do you call it? That's a Venn diagram, right?
Yeah.
Do you call it a Venn diagram when there's three of them?
I think so.
Yeah, it's still a Venn diagram.
Trifecta diagram. What do you call it?
Still the same thing.
Oh, so it's still.
You could have 100 and still a Venn diagram.
See my raw intelligence coming out at this point. So you look at that Venn diagram, right? So you got the world, like Ryan's saying, Bitcoin generally, everybody's hearing about it. You get the prospect who probably, Grandpa Kurt isn't going to be a blockchain expert, right? Grandpa Kurt's 71 years old. He probably has heard about Bitcoin. He's seeing it on the news. He's seeing it pop up on CNBC, and they're saying it used to be hitting new highs. He's kind of intrigued by it. He doesn't want to get left out of it. He's seeing all these people make millions. He might generally get the idea that, again, he's conservative/libertarian, so he might generally get the idea that Bitcoin's a little subversive of a currency. It's kind of like a little bit of a middle finger to the governments around the world who screwed him over by printing all this money, and this is decentralized. But he doesn't really get how it all works, and he sees all these people making money, and then you bring the product in, which is we're going to show you how to turn as little as $50 into a fortune with Bitcoin through a 3-step process, a 4-step process, even if you don't know anything about Bitcoin. So that's where that big idea rests in the middle of that. Does everybody understand that? Manny.
I have a question about the product circle of that Venn diagram. So the prospect, it's his fears and his desires, right?
Yep.
So for the world, it's what's hot in the world, what's everybody talking about. The prospect, the product, we would like to create something that fit right in the middle of that.
We have to fulfill it. I mean, that's really our goal is to sell a product.
Right.
So that doesn't mean it has to be an existing product. Very well, it could be a new product that we launch, but we have to actually have the means to
Be able to
fulfill
fulfill it.
that promise.
So it's a great question, right? Because a lot of the big ideas